I've been using Claude Code every day for the past 6 months, and these are my most used projects. YouTube assistants, product management, business assistants, content pipelines. Now, if you notice something, none of these are coding projects. Most people hear Claude Code and think it's just for developers. Well, it's not just for developers. It's actually a local AI agent that lives on your computer. After over 1,000 sessions with Claude Code for non-coding tasks, these are the lessons I wish someone told me when I was starting out. Lesson 1. Ask Claude to interview you before it starts. So for the longest time, I would just carelessly type a prompt, hit enter, get something back, and then spend minutes fixing it. And I had to do that over and over and over. The output was close, but it was never right. And I kept thinking maybe I just need to write better prompts. Then one day I was in the regular chat of Claude. This wasn't even Claude Code yet. And I just thought, what if I asked Claude to ask me questions? So it was just really a random experiment. And Claude did ask me questions, and I immediately got better results. Because Claude started asking me things that I didn't thought I should include. Like context I didn't even know was relevant, decisions I haven't even made yet, edge cases that I would have missed. Now I barely skip this step. This is called reverse prompting. So before any big task, I tell Claude, interview me first, ask me everything you need to know before you start. And honestly, I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. The better the context Claude has, the better the output. And speaking your answers out loud gives way more context than just typing it. Which brings me to the next lesson. Lesson 2. Use voice-to-text prompting. I used to type every prompt. And what I didn't realize was that when you type, your brain moves faster than your fingers. So naturally, you kind of filter things out. So you shorten, you skip background information, you leave out the why. Then one day I tried speaking my prompts instead. And I noticed how much more context came out naturally. Because speaking is how we actually communicate. You explain things differently when you talk. You include the backstory, you mention the edge cases, you give the full picture. And research has shown that Claude and other LLMs for that matter performs way better when it has the full picture. So now voice to text is my default for prompting. One click to start talking, one click to stop, and it pastes whatever I said where my cursor is. Lesson 3. Plan before you execute. So early on, I would just let Claude Code go. No plan, just do what I ask. And it would just burn through tokens and time doing the wrong thing. And sometimes that just goes all down the drain. Then I discovered plan mode. So you press Shift and Tab and Claude switches into plan mode. So instead of just doing the work outright, it explains what it's going to do before it does anything. Because once you see the plan, you can see if Claude and you really do have an understanding before it even does anything. So there's no wasted work, no wasted time, no wasted usage. Now I use plan mode for almost everything. I mean, think of it like this, right? You wouldn't tell a contractor to start building without reviewing the blueprints first. It's the same idea. Lesson 4. Review plans before executing them. Plan mode shows you the plan before executing, and of course you would review it. But actually having a review plan skill gives Claude Code another opportunity to provide you with its suggestions and improvements. So that's exactly what I did. I built a review skill. It's basically a slash command that I can trigger that checks every plan for gaps and assumptions before anything gets executed. Now Claude questions its own plan before I even have to. And the best part is you can build a review skill customized by how you want Claude to review your plans. Lesson 5. Claude Code has real tools. So when I first started, I thought Claude Code was just a better chat interface in a terminal. Then one day I had 20 plus long documents in a project folder. I needed to find one very specific piece of information somewhere in those documents. So I asked Claude Code to find it. And instead of guessing, it actually ran search commands through all of those documents. And it pulled out the exact line that I needed. So that's when I realized that this isn't just a chatbot running in a terminal. It has real tools like bash commands in the terminal. So it can search files, it can browse the web, and it can automate browsers by clicking through them, filling in forms, taking in screenshots. You get the gist. And once I understood that, it stopped being just a thing I chat with. It became more of like a workstation that I actually use. Which brings us to lesson number 6, which is to build reusable skills from any knowledge source. So this one might actually be my favorite lesson because I always watch great YouTube videos. I like reading books and I consume all forms of knowledge. And then I'd forget half of it within the week, honestly. And then I got to thinking, after watching a video about writing great YouTube hooks. It had really good frameworks, step-by-step formulas, and specific techniques. And I thought, what if I gave this transcript to Claude Code and asked it to turn it into a skill? So I did. And now, every time I write a hook for YouTube, Claude automatically applies these exact same principles. And that's when, it clicked for me. Because any knowledge source, like a book, a video, an SOP document, they can all become a permanent skill that your Claude Code assistants can use. So now whenever I come across a nice article, book, or video that's relevant to my workflow, then I give it to Claude Code and it either updates my skills or creates a new skill for me. That allows that knowledge to go straight into my setup instead of remaining in my head. Okay, a few quick ones you can set up in 30 seconds. Lesson 7. Use Claude Code inside your IDE. So you can open the terminal in Cursor or VS Code or an IDE of your choice, and Claude Code automatically opens in that project directory. So you can see all your files, your skills, your CLAUDE.md, everything in one place. Lesson 8 is to customize your status bar. So set up your status bar so you know which model, which Claude Code version, and how many contexts you have left. And you can customize it with whatever information you want. Lesson 9 is to create aliases for common commands. So add aliases to your ZSHRC. That's just a setting file for your terminal so you don't have to retype long commands every time. So yeah, if you always start Claude Code with the same flags, make it one word. It takes 2 minutes and it saves you time every single session. Lesson 10. Type prompts in a text editor first. If you're using Claude Code in the terminal, type your prompts in a text editor first. A notepad or like a Google Doc. Then paste it when you're done. Because it's way easier to edit and rethink your prompt before you send it. Because editing in a terminal is not fun. Trust me, I've been there. Lesson 11. Use /BTW to talk without interrupting what Claude is doing. So Claude Code has built-in shortcuts that start with a /, and /BTW lets you send Claude Code the message without interrupting whatever it's working on. So you don't have to wait for it to finish before sending it another message. Lesson 12, you don't have to set any of this up yourself. Okay, so before I show you how to build your system, like your Claude.md, your voice guidelines, different skills, I need to tell you this trick, which is, when I first heard about all of these configuration files, I thought I needed to learn some kind of syntax, or at least study how these files are structured. Turns out, I didn't need to learn any of that. Now I have a ton of files in my setup and I didn't write any of them by hand. The first time I needed a Claude.md, I just described what I wanted and Claude wrote it for me. Same with the first time I needed voice guidelines. I told Claude how I like to write and it created the whole thing. So every skill, every instruction file in my entire setup, Claude Code built all of that for me. I just described what I needed in plain English and Claude turned it into working configuration. And here's the thing. Everything I'm about to show you, the Claude.md, the voice guidelines, the skills, you don't configure Claude Code yourself. You can tell Claude Code to configure itself. And once you see it that way, it's gonna be hard to go back to just like handwriting your configurations. Especially if you're not technical. So yeah, just remember, you don't need to know how any of this works under the hood. You just need to know what you want. Okay, lesson 13 is to write a personal instruction manual. The personal instruction manual is the CLAUDE.md. And for the first few weeks, I kept repeating the same instructions. So every new conversation, I'd say the same things like don't use emojis, always explain your reasoning, use this folder structure, and so on, and over and over and over. Then I learned about CLAUDE.md. So it's a file that persists across every conversation. So it's basically like a personal instruction manual for Claude Code. So you write it once and Claude follows it across all of the conversations. And the best part is this CLAUDE.md is written in plain English, so there's no code. It's just clear instructions for how you want Claude Code to work. And the best part is you can even ask Claude to update your CLAUDE.md every now and then whenever you think of something that you want added in your workflow. Okay, so now you've got the instruction manual for Claude Code, you've got Claude Code building your setup. Now let's talk about what happens when you actually start working. Now, lesson 14 is delegating heavy work to subagents. So here's something that most people don't realize. Your main conversation has limited memory. So everything that Claude Code reads, like every file it opens, every long output, it all eats into that context window. And eventually, Claude starts forgetting the decisions you made earlier in that conversation. And unfortunately, that's happened more times to me than I'd like to admit. So then I learned about subagents. So subagents do the heavy work in their own context window. So the context window in your main conversation stays preserved and clean. So think of it like a project manager delegating to team members. So you don't need to see every line of research or every action your team members does. You just need to see the summary. Now, my main conversations are just for decisions and direction. All of the heavy lifting happens in the background in those subagents. And the context of my main conversation stays clean for what actually matters. And this is just one of the ways to save context, by the way. I'll show you another trick later for long conversations. Lesson 15, save your voice and style once and then use it everywhere. So AI writing sounds like AI writing. You know what I mean. Too many M dashes. It's not X, it's Y framing. Those forced engagement questions at the end of everything. I hated it. So I sat down and wrote out exactly how I want Claude to write. So my tone, my sentence structure, phrases I naturally reach for, everything. And more importantly, I listed every pattern I never want to see. The M dashes, the forced questions, it's not X, it's Y. All of it was on a banned list. Now every skill in the project references that same voice file. I have, I think, 10 or more skills across many projects that all write things for me. And now they all sound like me. Not generic AI, but they actually sound like me. So if your AI output sounds generic, this might be worth trying. And an additional tip is if you already have a good sample of things you've written by hand, like emails, articles, posts, or maybe even YouTube videos, you can feed all of those to Claude and ask it to create your voice and style guidelines for you. It'll pick up on the patterns that maybe you might not have even noticed yourself. Lesson 16 is to set boundaries. I learned this one after Claude kept making decisions that I didn't ask for. So it was adding features that I didn't want, it was changing things that were fine, and it was just replacing files even though I haven't reviewed them yet. So now I have a never do sections in my Claude.md. Claude is eager to help. Sometimes it's too eager. And these rules to your Claude.md will save yourself a lot of headaches and back and forths. All right, now a few more quick ones focused around protecting your setup. So lesson 17 is to turn off auto update. So I had Claude Code auto update to a broken version once. And I lost a few hours figuring out how to downgrade it because that version was just not working. Now, what I do is I check the GitHub repo first, for like the changes, and if nobody's reporting issues with the latest version, then I just update it manually by running Claude space update. It's much safer to do it this way, especially if you rely on Claude Code for your daily work like I do. Lesson 16, download Open Usage on Mac so you can see your Claude usage directly on the Mac menu bar. I'm sure there's an alternative for this for Windows. This allows you to see exactly how much of your plan you've used up in the 5-hour session limit and also the weekly session. Lesson 19. Use /rename and /resume. Name your conversations so you can actually find them later, and use /resume to pick up where you left off. It's simple, but it really helps, especially if you want to resume like a conversation that you had a few days ago, since it has all of that important context already. Lesson 20 is that CLAUDE.md and skills work on both levels. I didn't realize this at first, but CLAUDE.md can actually live in two places. A global one, which applies to all of the projects that you have, and a project-specific one, which is just the rules for that specific project. And the same goes for skills. Global skills are available everywhere, and project skills are specific to that project. Same case for subagents as well. And once I figured this out, it completely changed how I organized my setup. And if you want to see a video walking you through step-by-step of how I create these Claude Code non-coding assistants, then make sure to check this out. I'll also link it down in the description. Lesson 21 is to switch off auto compaction. Remember I said subagents save context? Well, here's the other trick. Long conversations compact. So basically Claude's context window compresses and it starts forgetting the decisions you made 20 minutes ago. I've lost real work this way. Decisions we'd agreed on, Claude just forgot. So here's what I do now. I switched off auto compact, and whenever you're near hitting the context limit, I just do /export and I copy the conversation to clipboard. Then I do /clear, so it clears everything. And then I just paste it and tell Claude to continue from here. That way, you can control exactly what Claude remembers, basically the entire conversation. It's way better than letting it compress things automatically and hoping that nothing important gets lost. Lesson 22 is to teach Claude to improve its own skills. So after Claude delivers a really good piece of output using one of your skills, take a moment and tell it, I liked how you did this. Let's look at the feedback that I gave you and figure out what updates we should make to your skill. And then brainstorm the improvements together. The more you use a skill, the more you notice nuances that can be improved. So your workflows can continually change and get better over time because you'll discover better approaches. Okay, we've covered a lot. Now here's a few rapid ones again before some big lessons. So lesson 23 is to organize your output into folders. Just ask Claude to save output in consistent folders. So all the files Claude generates for a specific project go into one project folder, for example. So if you're asking Claude Code to write marketing campaigns for a specific campaign, then it should just go into that campaign number 1 folder, for example. So you can come back to it weeks later and you know exactly where everything is. Lesson 24 is to create /commands for workflows. So skills and /commands are kind of the same because a skill can be invoked by using the /command and name of the skill. So as mentioned, skills allow you to encode like complex prompts and guidelines into these /commands. So instead of having to type the long prompt every time, you fire it with a single /command. As I mentioned, I have one for brainstorming, I have one for plan review, I even have one for backing up my config. It just saves minutes per session, and over months of using Claude Code, it definitely adds up. Lesson 25 is to back up your assistants on GitHub. So your assistant represents hours of iteration and work from you. So it's important to have a backup of this, especially backups with version control, so that if anything ever happens to your computer, then you can just start from where you left off because you have a backup somewhere in the internet that Claude can actually understand and pull from. And speaking of GitHub, lesson 26 is to browse GitHub and the community in general for skills. You don't have to build everything from scratch. You don't even have to ask Claude to build everything for you. There are great subagents, skills, and CLAUDE.md examples from other people on GitHub. So if you find something you like, just give Claude Code the URL of that repository and tell it to copy or take inspiration from whatever skill or configuration that you like from that repository. Lesson 27 is to use orchestrators for your assistants. An orchestrator is basically a set of instructions that you can add to your project level CLAUDE.md that detects what you're asking for and routes you to the right skill automatically. So it can say something like, if they ask about writing, use the writing skill. They ask about planning, use the planning skill, and so on. So now whenever you say write a post, then it triggers the writing skill. Or when you say plan my week, then it triggers the planning skill. So you never have to remember which skill does what, because it can grow pretty significantly over time. So this is especially useful for non-coding assistant repos where you've built up more than 10 skills. So now you just talk and Claude figures out where to send you. Now, everything I showed you, the CLAUDE.md, the skills, the slash commands, the orchestrators, they're all building blocks. And when you put them together, something bigger happens, which is lesson 28. Build entire assistants from plain English. Because all my assistants combine a CLAUDE.md and skills and slash commands, and they have orchestrators. So each assistant that I have is a dedicated repository with plain just English and Markdown files. That's it. I have a YouTube assistant that handles my entire pre-prod pipeline. I have a product management assistant that helps me write tickets and PRDs. I have a content machine assistant that helps me with my social media. Each and every one of these assistants knows exactly how I want things done and how the workflow is sequenced. So for example, for the YouTube assistant, it knows that it should help me out with ideation first, and then packaging, and then writing the script, and then creating the visuals, and so on. So what I'm trying to say is that this list of files inside your assistant become their memory and their knowledge. And you can be assured that they'll never forget how you want them to work. And none of these require any code. They're just well-structured, plain English instructions that Claude follows, and Claude can even help you write. So if you can write or think about a clear set of instructions for a human assistant, then you can also build all of this. And as mentioned, if you want a step-by-step guide on how to build your first assistant with your CLAUDE.md, your skills, and have a working system after all of it, then check out this video. I'll see you next time.